Welcome back to Hamburg and the third place decider. Now Misfits are down 1-0 against Fnatic, and they're hoping to bounce back here in game 2. Despite that loss, you can still see smiles on some faces here. Power Viva looking pretty content as he walks back onto stage.
Definitely was a game where none of the teams really went too aggressive. Fnatic obviously with their composition, with the Ivern.
I mean, it's hard when you're drafting Karma Ivern.
Exactly. and I think Misfits probably wanted to look for way more fights, but they couldn't actually find them very often because there were some, issues for them in-game, giving up some control in the mid lane, and suddenly a tower goes down and it gets hard.
And once you fumble once or twice, it just gets impossible to kill any one member. You don't have a lot of burst damage outside of the LeBlanc. You saw Ash arrows hit, you saw the team go in, and it still just wasn't enough in the situations where they could set up those picks. Still weren't able to find the kills.
I want to see the reaction bans here from Misfits. Let's get rid of that Gragas. You know what? The Ivern, I think it can stay. Because otherwise we've seen Broxah strongly sin Elise junglers, but at least now he's shown that he can play 3 junglers, which makes it much harder for him to get banned out.
And of course they banned the Aurelion Soul, the Twitch last time. Do they have to give up one of those bans? Play against a champion they may not be comfortable against?
I think you can give up the Twitch for sure. You can still ban Shen and just pick Gragas yourself earlier. Like, this was a counter pick for Source in the last pick phase. So it's not like Misfits won't have a chance here. Now they're red side again because Fnatic actually picked blue side coming into this game. So we might see exactly the same kind of draft from Fnatic. And it's up to Misfits to then take away things. Take away the Gragas. Or maybe you early pick the Kennen yourself and you denied that one from Reckless, even though I don't actually think that was the most impactful pick in this game.
When we look at it too, the biggest issue in the early game was, of course, Alphari maybe overextending once or twice, or the clever pathing from Broxah. And it feels like those are mistakes that Alphari can easily adjust for in this game. Say, hey, I don't need to push that far out for the waves. I need to respect the Ivern if I see it again.
And it's also a change-up. He must have not expected it, because when Misfits did their research, what they saw time and time again...
was not Ivern.
Not Ivern, and also level 4 bot gank, level 5 bot camp, level 6 bot camp. You know, they don't expect Broxah stylistically to show up top lane once, let alone twice, if not 3 times.
Well, we'll see how many rabbits Broxah can pull out of the hat. We've seen the Lee Sin, the Elise, now the Ivern joining it as well. What will the priority be for Fnatic? And so far, the pick ban remains the same.
Yeah, Fnatic with the first ban Varus here. I'm going to make a bold prediction that their second ban will in fact be Malzahar.
Impressive prediction here, Mitch. Classic Fnatic. Ooh, whoa. He just nailed it.
Thank you.
Like, he
crowd
just nailed
goes
it.
completely mild.
Crowd is so nuts because you predicted the Malzahar ban.
That they ban every single time. So Fnatic, no variance right there. So Misfits, at least they know what they're playing against.
Now, Misfits banned Twitch here last time. I think they don't have to do that this early, and I think that is one of the champions you can give up, because also if Kennen is available, like, Fnatic will probably take Kennen above the Twitch anyway. They stick to what they were banning in the last game. Can't blame them too much going into game 2, but I think we need some adaptations.
Now, last time we saw Fnatic play up against G2, they kind of just rinsed and repeated that draft when they came into game 2. They made one change, I believe. Other than that, it was entirely the same. Fnatic probably just content to continue the drafting phase last time around, but it feels like very bold decision coming in from Misfits to say, hey, we can take that again, we can try the same game.
Deja vu, guys. I've seen this one before.
There we go. This time you will not get a reaction from us, because we do know it's going to be that Ivern first pick. Graves is a great pick against him.
I think Graves was definitely fine.
It was a good early start from Kakao. He just didn't manage to keep Ivern down after.
I just think you keep your mid lane pick here to the 3rd rotation for Misfits. You still get a counter pick within the first pick phase, but if you late pick mid blind, you can then start banning out other counters in the 2nd ban phase.
Because right now, most teams will want to pick their mid laner if you're on Fnatic side, because if you don't show a mid laner here, then Power Viva can log in a mid laner and ban 2 counters and give himself a really good matchup.
And now they can put pressure and tell Fnatic, you know what, you can't pick LeBlanc, because Lulu is considered the LeBlanc counter, and it's technically a flex right now. Misfits then can actually pick LeBlanc on 3rd, for example, if Power Viva really wants to play it. That's their planning maybe, and then ban out the double counter. However, Fnatic surprised here and they say, you know what, we are fine playing LeBlanc into that Lulu matchup.
And Cap says, I'm not scared. I'm not Exile. I am not going to fall to that Lulu in the early game. I'm not going to get solo kill.
I mean, it can still be Power Viva's Rise here too, for example.
Can be Rise, can be Corki from him, something we've seen quite a bit. But there is quite a few counters, which means Misfits can save it for later. This is most likely Camille top lane. And now they can remove things like Renekton. But also, when you play against Source, you're not expecting carries. You're actually expecting tanks, which can make Camille a perfectly fine pick. I actually want to see Gragas banned here from Misfits. Like, just get rid of Gragas. Don't allow Source to play it.
Well, things for the most part on the side of Fnatic remain the same. LeBlanc, the big mix-up, but Misfits making massive changes. No Rumble anymore. Not going to see early mid-lane rotations. Confidence from Power of Evil. He says, I can wait. We have the Lulu, we have the Camille. Now the Fizz banned away as well on the side of Misfits.
And this is a game where the Misfits bottom lane may have to be a little bit passive here, allow Kakao to play mostly around top side, you know, always shadowing Camille so she never gets behind, and then put pressure on Power of Evil's lane, let them control the enemy LeBlanc here, and then the only thing Hansama and Ignar need to do is survive.
Now, if this will be Lulu mid lane, then I actually really want to see Misfits just take Karma with their first pick, because Fnatic's combo is really good because they stack shields with each other. But if you add the shields from Karma plus Lulu on the side of Misfits against a LeBlanc, LeBlanc won't actually be able to kill anyone in a team fight. So I think that is a very viable strategy from them, but it does mean showing its Lulu mid before the last pick.
And this is something we've seen before from Fnatic. They removed the 3 strongest AD carries, and then they draft themselves either a niche scaler or a pocket pick like the Cannon, you know, so they can really not get punished in lane. And right now, Hansama will have to dig deeper. He could maybe go for a Kalista, which is not a great matchup into Cannon, but it might be his next best thing.
And for Hansama, it was a massive pick in the series against Splice. It looked good on him overall, but looks like he wants to go toe-to-toe with the early power of Kennen, picks himself up the Lucian. We're going to have an aggressive bot lane.
Support matchup will be incredibly crucial here to see who comes out on top. Lucian paired with the stronger support can demolish this Kennen in lane. However, if Jesus gets his hand on the blind Karma and Misfits do not find the answer, they might struggle dearly in the bottom lane.
Jesus could also pick Zyra here if he wants more pressure against his Lulu in the laning phase. I like Karma with their shielding with Iron, but I want Zyra for them actually trying to win the lane more. Thresh is another one, but Thresh is harder to execute in my opinion, and I wasn't too impressed with Jesus on this champion in the semi-final.
And this feels like the only series where we would see Thresh be a contested pick. Ignar and Jesus, 2 guys that love to play this champion.
Ignar has to play Zyra here. It's almost, I think it's lane victory. If you're confident in playing Zyra mid here, Zyra bottom lane here, I think you really get the edge, because it's impossible on 8 ping for Thresh to land a hook.
Instead, opting for the Braum. Yes, you've got the power to stack up, to use the concussive blows. This is the old school dual lane synergy here, but is it enough?
I think what Misfits are looking for in their support pick is not to flourish in lane, but is to bring more engages and frontline to the team fights. We saw them hesitate when the engages didn't go right, and they want to make sure that they're not in a position where their main engage is flash E on Zyra. I think that is a respectable point of view. However, double range bully matchup into Lucian Braum is very hard to play, and Hansama and Ignar haven't had the best laning phases lately.
No, and I mean, there's just so many options for Misfits in this pick and ban phase, and they could have drafted, as we mentioned earlier, things like the Karma as well to just stack shields, so there's no kill pressure for like a LeBlanc, and then it's all about Reckless on a team fighting Kennen, which will actually give a bit of big advantage for Misfits, because we know Source will mainly play tanks top lane. They didn't also ban the Renekton. Like, I'm actually okay putting Alfari in a skilled matchup against Source if I'm on the side of Misfits, but they give him the Gragas once again. Gragas has a fine laning phase against Camille, and it's where Source can shine. So I feel like Misfits were respecting some of the picks too much and not actually thinking about who they were playing against. Because I don't think a Renekton Source would have been the worst thing for them to deal with.
But maybe risking a little too much here, not worried at all about the Gragas despite the impact it had in the previous game. But Alfari, he has more tools to escape now, more flexibility, more mobility. We can be sure that he won't die in the same way on the top side of the map. But the big shift here is in the bottom lane. Misfits going way more aggressive this time around with less engage options. No Ashe this time. Man, that Lucian, if he gets ahead.
Let's see what the fans think though. Hashtag FNC win, hashtag MSF win. There's a lot of Fnatic fans in this building. Nearly half the fans I've seen, they're all wearing Fnatic jerseys here, so they're definitely rooting for Fnatic to take N2.
We'll see. Is their faith well put? Fnatic already up 1 game in this series. Things looking good for them. They got another composition that suits their style perfectly. But is this change-up what Misfits need? Is this going to be the difference maker? Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Put your hands together. It is game 2. Fnatic versus Misfits. Red and blue, rinse and repeat, and already action in the early game.
Yeah, we actually saw a 5-man invade from Misfits.
Yeah, they almost caught. If there was a blind Q from Ignar, they could have maybe tagged Caps. That is one of the strong points of a Braum on an invade. You never want to skirmish, because he can literally just passive stack every single member in a 5v5 fight.
Now, with this comp here from Misfits, the Lulu mid lane, it was something Power of Evil introduced last week. We saw Faker play today. in the LCK final as well. Laning phase from Lulu, she still has enough damage to be a threat. That's why he's running an offensive summoner. And we actually saw Exile get very surprised with some of the damage with Power View flashing forward against the Unicorns of Love. Now obviously Caps had a week to kind of look at that matchup as well. So he shouldn't be surprised.
It's actually super cool that Lulu, as a champion, while she seems very defensive, her 1-6 historically has been very strong, and that paired with Ignite means it's almost impossible for anyone to beat that. Now, Kakao brings his friends, Ignite.
Forward.
Oh, miscommunication from Misfits. You see Kakao walk away from Broxah, and then the Q flash happens from Ignar.
Ooh, big hit, by the way. This is so hard to play. Not only does Reckless and Jezis have the lane matchup, they also have the lane push early. They have complete control there. The only thing Kakao needs to do right now is actually get behind that. Hansama is moving in. This is so greedy from the Misfits.
Taking a lot of damage. Early heal already burned. Disaster strikes in the early game. Yes, to get Kakao ahead, but at what cost here for the bottom lane in the side of Misfits?
The one lucky thing is they may not have missed too many creeps right there, because it looked like Fnatic fast pushed the first wave, but there still be at least down a single creep here. Now Fnatic's level 2. Ignar and Hansama way far away from that.
Luckily they're at the tower though, so they're not really at any threat here. They're not going to die. They're not going to get pulled out by Jessis and kill them.
You say that.
I say that, and then they're going to dive him level 2 and be like, whoa, okay.
Oh, there he is, getting pulled out.
Oh, he missed the play.
Oh, not what you want on the big stage.
And also pulling him out is fine, but you're not going to kill him.
Yeah, he's poking. He's been watching too much Grapple stream, happens all the time. To the best of supports out there.
Is that what you are now?
Pretty sure no one watched that stream.
I appreciate watching that all the time. Anyways, PoE trading.
Caps not getting what he wanted there in that exchange. Level advantage for PoE makes it all too easy. And you talked about this previous performance for him, and it was pretty dominant right from the start of the game.
Yeah, again, he got early kills. He was dominating the laning phase and made it really hard for the LeBlanc to do anything. And that's kind of the key thing. Lulu offers so many shields that it's, or shields and HP with the ulti, that it's just not possible for LeBlanc to really burst her down. And then also with this pretty high base damage, you can actually trade very effectively against Caps, and that's why Power People are kind of sitting in this situation.
And against the shorter range players, it's also so easy for Lulu to get the wave push with Q and also win trades by proccing very easy E-auto Thunderlord procs. So in a very short amount of time, you can get control of the lane in two ways, trading and wave push. But now Kakao snuck around the enemy bottom lane.
I actually wanted to talk about this a little bit earlier, how with the Braum, it can again set up Misfits to try and camp this bottom lane. Jessis is behind Reckless right now.
Yeah, he's in Lantern position. It does mean that it's much easier for Hansama to farm, and it may even out here. Now Broxah is going to find out his jungle is being stolen.
But Kakao now may be the one who's going to get caught out here as the team collapses. Flash away from the root caller, but the CC comes in, and that's not the start that Misfits wanted. The exhaust goes in, Kakao goes down. That's first blood for the Kennen.
It's all gone wrong for Misfits since level 1. It was much harder to bot lane without flash on Ignar, because that was wasted when there were miscommunication. Bot lane then, Kakao caught behind enemy lines and simply dies, gives up first blood to Kennen.
Yeah, but this was a really great trade for Power. Goes in
no,
again.
Prox is behind him. Root Caller's going to connect. Caps is just going to walk forward. The chains, they're going to bring it home. Power Vivo wants to get something back, but the Ignite burns, or the exhaust rather, takes him down.
And PoE going for the offensive flash, looking for the montage moment instead of just piecing out. They're playing defensively here. The Misfits, they're so desperate to crawl out of this hole that they've dug for themselves that they're actually digging themselves even deeper.
And we talked about Ivor not being the problem, but it was a big issue for the side of Misfits in Game 1, and it's once again the problem here in Game 2. Broxah, despite being put down under, despite Kakao taking so much from him in the jungle, still makes an impact.
Well, we get to see now another good start from Broxah. We get to see Fnatic with a great start in this game against the Misfits comp that it's really hard to execute when behind. You're going to lack damage because Lulu's not going to offer it from you in the mid lane. Or, sorry, lack magic damage because she's not going to offer enough when behind. Now, Camille, Graves, Lucian obviously will bring plenty of physical damage, but that's where the shields comes in for Fnatic. That's where the armor stacking comes in for Soaz. And then suddenly you can't really kill that big tank.
Yeah, that's where you start disliking Ninja Tabi as an item. Let's see what the next play here is for Fnatic. They're looking to hold bot lane, going to replay. Yeah, this is PoE, so he has pressure on Caps. Caps just teleported back, by the way, so he was very passive mindset. Caps with reactionary flash. Still, PoE needed another E-auto and Ignite tick to get that kill. That is bold.
I think maybe knowing that Broxah had flash, he didn't feel like he could escape, but then at least you trade flash for flash.
I think what he was trying to do there was expect Caps to dash in to close the gap on the chase, and then get in obviously in a great position. This was almost too easy for Fnatic.
This was too easy. I think Misfits delayed the gank a lot. Minion wave was at the tower, no flash on Ignore, so Kakao thought he could finish the camp. Then he goes down to Fnatic with a good setup here, good catch. I wanted to talk about that actually with the Graves and the Lulu. Like one of the reasons we get to see more Lulu, even Karma mid earlier today in LCK is like with junglers like Graves, you get like another 80 carry. And Graves obviously fairly short range, but if you can buff him up with movement speed, attack speed, HP, then he can sit in the front line and he deals a ton of damage and you can't really kill him. So in theory, having things like a Lulu Graves combo is very, very strong. Problem for Misfits, as we said earlier though, is just once you start falling behind, you only really will have physical damage to bring, and that's going to get itemized against on the side of Fnatic.
So then what are the options for Misfits as we look at it? It's only 7 minutes in. The gold difference isn't massive quite yet, but are Misfits down and out already because they have a solid team? You said they have this win condition, they have the strength of the Graves, but they're just not able to use it.
They need to track Soas if he disappears from the top lane. He has done it in the past. Obviously, both teleports are down, so bottom lanes are playing 4v4. And Ignore on level 6 rather still spikes incredibly hard. Like Braum Lucian can one-shot Kennen in this lane if Reckless overplays.
Yeah, that's where I think we're going to see it from Misfits, is in the bottom lane. You know, you set up a play, you TP in with Camille, you roam first with Lulu. You obviously have a lot of ways to get down towards this bottom lane and join Braum and Lucian.
And that exact thing is what Fnatic is fighting right now. Double control ward in the river. Broxa lingering around the mid lane, allowing Caps to actually get the push over PoE in this presumed counter matchup. That's obviously going to thwart the roam. When you're spotted, you have to return back to mid lane, then go back bot later again. Fnatic really identifying their issue areas rather with those wards.
Another thing about this draft here for Misfits, it's an adaptation to the first game where they made that mistake, couldn't really hold the mid lane, they lost tower, lost the fight, and then lost Baron, and it all went wrong. So they've changed it up and said, let's get a more skirmish AD carry ourselves and try and put him on the side lane against Reckless. So you put Braum, Lucian versus the Kennen Thresh, and you try and play that 2v2, 3v3 game, and that's where obviously Lucian shines because he is very mobile, he's fine in 1v1s. Ashe is more of a team player.
But with so much control already on the bottom side for Fnatic, those double control wards, now the blue buff stolen away as well. It feels like it's going to be so difficult for Hans Sama to have an impact. He's going up against a Kennen, a champion that packs its own CC in these fights.
And they still can't go for the culling push out into base rotation because Camille still has the pressure on top lane. That is a play they can make. They can also try a surprise here. I do not think Fnatic are fully aware of them being in the brush. There are pings coming out potentially, but they don't know for sure.
Yeah, I like that Fnatic is sticking so far towards the river. It's been like, if you are in there, you know, we're not going to face check instantly. Kill the wave, get the minions on your side if you do have a fight. Kennen is very strong level 6 in these all-ins. Kakao's on the way. He's spotted though by 500 wards from Fnatic.
Oh, and that means Fnatic know exactly what is happening here.
Yeah, I would love to see this kind of pressure gank from Kakao, allow him to push out bot lane, have him base and rotate. But the problem is Kakao is getting called back by his mid laner. He needs help.
We talked about how crucial the early game could be for Misfits to get that Lulu ahead, but you can see it in the itemization here as the chains connect. Triple Dorans on both sides. Both laners just want to find an edge here.
Yeah, and here you see what jungle pressure means, right? Kakao just showing up allows PoE to play more aggressive and then prevents Caps from blocking these chains, and suddenly the lane position may forward or favor rather the Misfits.
Only problem is, obviously, Kakao needs to show himself to do this, and this means Fnatic don't really have to fear anything elsewhere. Safely push out the bottom lane, top lane Source is just kind of laning against a magic resist rushing Camille, so he's not really afraid of dying. Fight mid lane though.
In, exhaust, suddenly Kakao from the backside though. Caps is overstayed, and Kakao is going to get one back.
I like the patience here from Kakao, staying around. Caps thought he was just there to help push. When he then leaves, he returns around for another gank. The control ward there from Misfits to disable that ward from Fnatic.
And now we see also the Misfits pairing their jungler with the support, going for deep vision. Ignar comes back with his full sightstone, and now the bottom side of the map, previously the entire game in control of Fnatic, is now leaning finally towards the Misfits, and they can start playing into some of their strengths.
Yeah, this is where we can see that big play in the bottom lane here. Thresh is not very tanky at this point. If you gank him, he will die so quickly. Alfari obviously is itemizing just tank early on. He's actually not building to win his lane, but he's going to join a potential fight.
And Reckless, of course, someone that you have to be willing and ready to focus, but something we have to consider, Alfari, no TP available, double TP up and available on the side of Fnatic. It's that 4-man bot lane play you talked about earlier.
Yeah, definitely. So that's when we need to start tracking wards. And then Misfits are defending against that exact play with a lane ward, control ward rather. Now we see Kakao show up for pressure again. This could be the first step to that party for the Misfits. Pressure out the top lane enable Alfari to base, and then maybe we get an explosive fight.
Have to be careful when you do it though, because if Fnatic is ready, they're just gonna pull the trigger bottom lane, and then suddenly you're stuck top lane with your jungler, and your bot lane is gonna die. Because this again means Fnatic can push in. When they know exactly where Kakao is on the map, they know they will have a numbers advantage on the bottom side. So now, Fnatic are playing aggressive.
It's the four-man party. You saw so much respect coming out from Misfits. They backed off immediately, but now it's Daisy. It's the whole gang down on the bottom side of the map. They're just looking to get this tower.
And let's see, TP could come in from Alfari. There's wards behind. They're coming now.
Ult goes in for Ignar, looking to get the fight started. Box comes out. Rekkles is holding onto his ult for now. Broxah potentially in trouble. In goes Camille. Alfari gonna block as much as he can with the parry on the Hextech ultimatum, but Broxah gets taken down. The Colling's cleaning up. It's the double.
Caps is completely split up on this fight, which means Rekkles goes down. It's a triple kill for Hansama.
Hansama coming in clutch in the fight, and that's the turnaround that Misfits needed.
That was the bot lane fight we talked about here for Misfits. They had a ward behind Fnatic. Alfari TP'd in. And because it was on the tower this early on, Misfits were confident they could jump in.
And that is the risk of a flank. If you're not willing to commit immediately on the dive, these guys are going to fight their way out in the weak part. They're just going to punch through one of your flanking walls, and that's exactly what happened. Notice how Caps is playing on the left side. This kind of pseudo-siege gets broken with Kakao showing up, and then suddenly Caps cannot enter the fight. It's a complete 4v5.
It looks so good.
Obviously here, it looks very good. I agree with you, Dracos.
I too concur.
We all agree
and
it looks very good for Misfits.
You talked about this at level 1, Crepo, the concussive blows for Braum, the ability to just chain CC. Exactly. And Rekkles, of course, what do? There's no more fancy footwork at that point. Autos are going to stun you. You cannot dodge at all.
Yeah, can't stutter step it. Unless you have Mercs, then you feel really happy, but don't really want to draft it into this team comp.
Oh, this is so good now for Misfits all of a sudden. Like that turnaround. And that was the thing, you know, we said it looked pretty risky. They were going to run out of damage, magic damage as well. I don't know why I keep saying damage. Magic damage.
You just like magic.
I just like magic and damage. And Alfari is going for a bit of a lame fight top lane.
Unfortunately, not at the point, I think, where either of these guys have much kill pressure on one another. But something I want to draw attention to is Hansama. This is a great game for him. And in the past few weeks, the Misfits bottom lane hasn't been a big source of aggression, hasn't been kind of the center of attention, but they're doing well this time around.
I would say against Splice, in the end, when they kept playing against Ken and AD Carry, they actually took over the lane and did really well. But yes, overall, we haven't always seen them dominate.
It was their failure to punish stronger matchups, really. Like, they were playing strong matchup into the weaker Unicorns of Love matchups, and they weren't punishing them accordingly. We need to see them be able to thrive with an advantage, snowball it even more. Ooh. But for me, the man that has really unlocked this game has been Kakao.
Making the appropriate moves. Hansama going to dash forward. Rekkles potentially in trouble.
He's low.
Let's knock back. Maybe going to look for a little bit more. Redemption comes out. He's going to try to heal up. Lulu comes from above, but Power of Evil's all the way in. Rekkles is in trouble, but the CC is coming down. Hansama under the tower. He's the one tanking it up. This could be bad for the team because in goes Caps, in goes Daisy, down goes Hansama. And Fnatic are going to find the turnaround because Caps, he's hungry for a bit more. Gonna get the double. Doesn't even need to look at him with the Power Rangers finish.
So this time it was Misfits actually making the aggressive play. They saw Rekkles under that tower here. 2 tower dives in this game, and both times it completely backfired for the aggressive team. Power of Evil, he's going low, he's fine for now, but Source is on the way down.
Caps is flanking 2 top right here, so they're going to find Ignar. This may be a 4-for-1 exchange in total.
Broxah, push comes over the wall, Root Caller coming in, Ignar trying to hold on, it's the last Banshin, it's the Alamo, but things are going a little bit different this time around. Ignar running for his life, and Caps just gonna grab another one.
So good for Fnatic all of a sudden. The game turned around in favor of Misfits, now it's back in favor of Fnatic. Lesson number 1, don't tower dive.
Don't tower dive a cannon early in the game when you can't one-shot him, because that ulti, while it is weak in the late game because it doesn't scale off AP on the first rank early in the game, if you can use it to kite under a turret, it accomplishes everything you want from it. Let's watch this again.
See, I like this engage from Hansama here. You force Rekkles back, and now Cannon is useless. Cannon will not offer any wave clear, can't really fight. Take the tower.
Hit the turret. Just hit the turret right now. Just engage. Ignar really going rash, and there's another teleport, and that is what the Misfits forget. They're playing against double TP here, so Caps can join much faster from behind.
And because they don't actually get far enough away from this tower, Hansama was tanking it the entire fight, and he took like 3 or 4 shots from it. If you manage to get far enough away to get out of tower range, maybe, still very hard.
And this turret range, or this turret dive out, it would have worked months in the past before turret aggro changes were implemented. because you were hitting targets so far behind turret range that you would no longer draw it. But with the changes, it doesn't matter how far they are out of range or not, you will always get hit by the turret if you're under it, even though the target may not be in its own turret range. So those changes still punish pro players to these days because they're so used to getting these super aggro turret dives where you push people almost into their base, and then you get surprised on the way out, getting hit.
It's a rough road. We've seen Fnatic fall prey to that in the past as well. Soaz caught out under tower in the G2 series, but now Misfits the one making the mistakes, and this is pretty disastrous. This is flashbacks to game one. Burn everything on Reckless, see the team fight fall apart before your eyes, and for Misfits, they're dead even. The gold, not a huge advantage for Fnatic at this point. 1K not going to be everything, but it's going to continue to grow.
And the Misfits, they want to find a setup somewhere where they have vision control, because if you need to face check into Lulu, Braum, and a Camille, that's where they can really make picks. The problem is they're losing the side lane pressure.
It's always an issue when you play against Kennen and Reckless, because he will just keep pushing. But again, 3 kills on Hansama means that he can try and match some of this AD carry aggression, and we call it the 3-1-1. What we often see when it's the AD carry support and jungler pushing one side lane, and it's the mid laner holding the mid lane. It is what Misfits will try and do here with Braum Lucian as well. Have that number 3 in the side lane, you pair it up with Kakao, and it is very strong.
All right, Deficio, 3-1-1, that's what we'll call that. What do we call a Gnasher's Tooth Lulu?
Power of Evil.
Okay, fair. That was a surprisingly succinct answer.
I mean, he's a man who's, you know, been known for his unique builds. I personally feel like when you play Lulu, either you go Athenes, where you just make your, you know, utility even better, or you're trying to stack as much like pure AP as possible.
Guys, we're missing some sweet rotations here, though. And look at how Fnatic, they push the bottom lane, they base, they unlock that top lane turret. Like, shouldn't this excite you? Martin?
Yeah, but I was also excited about the Gnasher's Tooth Lulu here.
Still pushing on here. Turrets falling. Fnatic, they were much faster on the play. It's our favorite concept in the game. It's called tempo.
Tempo.
They started the tower push first, which means they get 2 turrets for 1 here. And again, using that, they just bridge that goal gap even larger.
Exactly where they want to be. 2K in their favor. Kakao going to get a Cloud Drake back. Definitely not the prize you wanted to see in that exchange. Fnatic now taking a bit more time. Maybe going to look to burn down the Rift Herald. This is a hallmark of the Fnatic Academy team, who are known to take Rift Herald every chance they got, but now it's going to be the main team picking it up here.
Back in the glory days of lane swaps, this is where Fnatic would always end.
Hey, we still have lane swaps. We saw them last week.
Yeah, not so fun though. This is where Fnatic would always end their push. It would be turret for turret for turret for turret for Dragon, and then eventually they ended on a Rift Herald because they were actually really good at executing it and playing the map. So it's good to see some of that rotational game come back in.
Yeah, was very successful at one of the best IM Katowices, where Fnatic surprisingly made it all the way to the final. And always been the thing about Fnatic, I feel like so often internationally they show up and represent the region really well.
And then they lost to some Koreans.
I don't think the team is very well known.
No, definitely not. But that's almost the best you can do these days in international tournaments. It's about who wins second place.
It's about winning a final spot
against SKT.
Against SKT.
And then you get to go home.
Because then you get scrims on stage against SKT, and then that's it.
Okay, guys, all right. Well, we're in a 3rd place match. I don't know if you noticed
Playing
that.
the championship point so you can play against SKT.
In the finals, hopefully, let's do it this time, EU. Well, Fnatic now moving in, trying to hold on to this tower, but in goes Power. Perhaps leaping out. Help pick still attached. Ignar is hooked up with the tower, dropping in favor of Misfits. They may just back off here after the tower take. No, gonna push for more.
Now that's, again, the play we saw last game here, where Misfits are just running into the mid lane and saying, you know what, Reckless, if you are slow at pushing side lane, we force mid.
Yep.
You're not there, you're not gonna join. You can see that wave in the bottom lane. The minions, they're just gonna push slightly or slowly towards Misfits, and they're gonna pick them up and push them back.
Yeah, so this is actually a really good situation for Misfits. Reckless cannot overextend on the bottom lane, because if he would show there, Misfits would continue this siege with 5 men in the mid. And it's again a mistake where Soaz is also playing a split pusher. You can't hold as 3 members. As 4, maybe they could have held and let Reckless push. This is a great punish, and all the tier 2 turrets are done. So Misfits definitely with a great hold.
How to get the chance though?
Trying to get the siege on, trying to get a little bit more, trying to get something back. They are going to grab the mid lane tower. Still holding on to the gold lead, but Ignar going to have to run for his life. However, the fight is split. Power of Evil is there to back him off. In goes Jesus. Maybe looking for a little bit more. It's flash out to safety from Ignar. Fnatic, are they going to go for more? Flash in, root collar, trigger seed. There's the ultimate. They're looking to keep the play going. Reckless is a man in trouble, but he just won't die. Once again, Reckless is unkillable. Leap forward, Alfari drops everything, falling apart.
And this is the hallmark of the Fnatic squad. When they draft AD Kennedy, they know so well how to protect him in fights when he pops that ultimate. he goes low, and then it's shield on shield on shield.
Yeah, it's just all on the Ivern again here. Broxah with a good early game. He gets that redemption. He gets a heal down, then also has the Athene, so he can just add so much value to his team. And yes, when you are focusing that AD carry, well, you suddenly have to like kill him twice with the amount of extra HP Ivern will give him.
It's a terrifying spot to be when the Hextech ultimatum is a duel that you do not win as the Camille.
Yeah, give him a shield. Give him another one. Buy your Ivern a redemption. Buy your Thresher redemption.
Buy him that locket.
Buy him a Frozen Mallet, because he will get it very soon.
After the QSS to follow, for sure. But now it's going to be even harder to lock this man down, to lock him up. And there's limited CC on the side of Misfits as it is. But we'll look at this one more time.
Yeah, it's super slow. It's like controlling the burst right now. Fnatic, they're loading up the shotgun. They're getting them in position. And then Reckless strikes. And immediately all the attention is put on them, saving him. Like redemption to shield into shield. It's so frustrating to play against because Hansama got a glorious culling right there, but it just wasn't enough.
Oh, good engage from Broxah. The Q. A flash in there to actually then lock down a target. Misfits find themselves 4k gold down. They try to have this combo where they could maybe match the early to make game of Fnatic. To go back to Power of Evil's build here, like if you think about it, he wants cooldown reduction, he wants AP. So Nashus will bring both, you know, 80 AP, 20% CDR. Doesn't have any extra mana regen, which is a problem for him. But again, what we saw from some Lulu players was like Morel, Nomicons, Luden's Echo, and then like a Death Cap. You know, you really stack high amount of AP and you try and just buff up your shields and your ulti. Not what Power Weevil is doing here, also with that magic resistance. So he's very focused on being able to send auto attack in a fight, which is kind of odd.
It's his style though, going for these like slightly defensive builds. Like we've seen the Abyssal Zodiac so far from him. Soas with another great pick off here. Can Ignar survive?
Backing up, Redemption coming down, looking for the heal. Multiple members now locked up by the ult from Ignar. Caps leaping back to safety. Misfits happy to fight in the choke point for now.
Teleport from behind from Alphari. Can he make something happen?
Goes, gets the stun, hook shot, wall dive. Happy to get in there. The ultimatum comes down, but once again it's Alphari who's in trouble. No one has dropped yet on the side of Fnatic. They're going to keep the ball rolling. They're going to grab Power of Evil. That's the 2 for 0.
Yeah, Misfits cannot win team fights against this Fnatic comp. It's the same as in game 1. It's Gragas in the front, it's Ivern to support the team, and it just keeps Reckless alive.
And this almost brings me back to like the way the Unicorns like to approach their fights when Ivern was such a stellar pick for them. Front line getting buffed up with the shields, the CC, and then the backline playing behind it, continuously dishing out damage on the right target selection here. Fnatic playing it slow and steady, not even giving Misfits a chance to fight their way back in.
And we look at the pick ban phase, we say, hey, maybe Misfits need to change something up. They say no. They say it was the execution where we faltered in game 1 and we can change it, but the execution is faltering here in game 2 as well.
Yeah, and this, and even if you made mistakes that you can isolate and you say, you know what, even if we played this better, we would have won. The Misfits, they need to challenge this Ivern and Gragas, take some of them away.
So Alphari flanking in here. Power Weevil wants to get in range to ulti Alphari, so he knocks up all these guys here, and he's actually trying to get in time. Nice hook from Jessis, and then Alphari dies at the same time. Simply denying everything from Misfits, and they're trying to set up this combo with Lulu mid lane, and it's just not working for them in these fights.
And maybe that's a fight you take when you have Rumble, when you have 5 enemy team members grouped up. But now that you have the Camille, you can only hit that one guy. You don't have the damage necessary to fight Fnatic when they're grouped up like that. It makes those lockets, those redemptions so much better.
Yeah, now Fnatic can siege. Pop out Daisy. She tanks the turret for you. League of Legends becomes a little bit easier.
Very nice of her.
Next, or soon we will add in the Rift Herald as well. Daisy, Rift Herald, Tippers.
Shaco boxes.
Shaco, that was it. Shaco boxes. Oh, a Fnatic Death Brush. They just kind
build your own.
Yeah, build your own.
Do it
wherever
yourself.
you want.
They're definitely doing it. Fnatic just going to grab the Infernal Drake. Happy to take it. May not be another tower, but it's pretty difficult. We're at this point we talked about before with the split push. Way harder to break into the base, way harder to take down those inhibitor towers, but they also have a 7k lead.
Yeah, it's important to note that none of these 2 games have been won through split pushing by any means. Like, it's been trying to farm 3 lanes, and then it's been team fights. And that's the thing with Fnatic, that change they made coming into this 3rd place game was obviously go from being this like 1v1, 2v2 team everywhere to drafting a lot of team fighting champions like Ivern Gragas.
Also no longer just about camp bot. We haven't seen Broxah spam ganks in the bottom lane. The lead was actually given by Misfits. Now Alphari gets hooked.
in trouble, doesn't want to, isn't going to make it out, just gets deleted instantaneously. Kakao, he's all alone. He's in no man's land. He's trying to find the 1v1 versus Caps. He's not having it, but another hook from Jesus! He goes over the wall. Reckless is popping off. He's going for more. Keeps dishing out the damage and power of Evil. Is all alone. He's desperate to get something
Got
back.
attack, mate.
He just can't get it in the end. There's no damage. Caps unstoppable. Fnatic on a tear.
Yeah, every single member from Fnatic just performing at such a high level in these fights here. Jesse's landing hooks left and right. And it means another win for Fnatic. In the down, they're going for the Nexus.
Yeah, definitely. First Nexus turret goes down here. It's another fight where Power Evo does not get his ulti off before single member has already died. Really good target selection by Fnatic and peeling from Broxah.
Team back alive though, Alfari trying to buy a bit of time. Interrupted, does throw out the Hextech ultimatum onto Broxah, trying to get something, trying to stall, trying to buy time, but it's not enough. He's locked down, he's knocked out. Fnatic, there is no mercy. They're not giving Misfits the chance to reset the map. Kakáo's alive, but they just keep marching in one at a time. And Fnatic are more than happy to reap the benefits, more than happy to take the kills, and more than happy to take the game 2 here against Misfits.
Yeah, they do it again.
They right now look like the best team on this stage. They are able to bounce back whenever there is a mistake. And they're able to actually punish Misfits in a lot of these fights here. 2 games in a row. And I mean, we talked so much about this in the pick and ban phase, how Misfits were gambling quite a lot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's not go for like this full shielding comp to kind of lock down or stop LeBlanc from doing anything. No, let's draft the Braum.
The one thing that we can talk about though is that the Misfits, they have been in this position before, not so long ago, where they needed a massive change-up in the draft and the playstyle after being down 0-2, and they did it. So I still have some hopes for them to fight back and work, especially on the communication. It seems that Ignor is not on the same page with his team when it comes to engages. Both dives and level 1 was very desynchronized.
And that's almost the biggest concern, is how Misfits are then not actually, after 11 or 12, 13 weeks, able to set up these plays here. But it's also, again, you're playing on stage, it's your first big game.
Yeah, but also playing on stage. I just love the emotion of some of these rookies from Fnatic. We see the really stern Reckless walking outside, you know, the Viking focus. And then Broxah's walking behind him, like waving to the crowd, because he's like soaking in the experience. And that's what it's all about. It's making it to an offline event and then actually just enjoying it as well.
And if he enjoys the Iron, well, he won't get it in Game 3.
He shouldn't.
He will not get it in Game 3 here. I actually think it's okay for Misfits to kind of give it over again, but then you need to draft like around it, and they didn't actually. So they also gave Source Gragas once again. I mean, like, here, play your best champion in team fights, banning out things like Renekton, champs we don't see Source dominate on. So definitely some changes to be made for Misfits. No Iron for Fnatic.
Well, we will see if those changes come through. Fnatic are 1 win away from 3rd place in the EULCS spring split. Let's send it over to the analysts for more on Game 2.
Thank you very much, Drakas, and the guys over there. And indeed, match point that is for Fnatic. Misfits down with their backs against the wall already, in quite 2 convincing wins for Fnatic. Let's start by looking at what stayed the same, which was the jungle matchup, Ivern versus Graves. What adaptations did we then see out of Misfits and out of Kakao to kind of negate what Ivern can bring?
I mean, in this game, they kind of brought their bot lane to the party too on the invade, and Kakao got what he wanted, but I think actually Broxah did a good adaptation. He went straight for the enemy red buff, and that way around he stayed in the game and didn't get snowballed on like in the first game. So and then Kakao got a lead, but then he kind of pushed it too far, as we can see here. He plays on the side where Fnatic got pressure and they can move first, and then we see Kakao getting killed, and then that kind of backfires for Misfits when we play on the wrong side.
It's one of those things where it almost seems cocky from Kakao, the playstyles that he's making, because he's invading on the enemy jungle when his bottom lane is getting hard pushed into their own turret. He has no idea as to where Ivern is, and it just becomes a very easy collapse, giving a very early red buff over to a bottom lane that's already stomping hard.
So especially as a jungler, is this something we've seen from Kakao in the past throughout the split, or is this now him also feeling the pressure and knowing if it goes well and I do these aggressive moves, I can put my team forward so much and doesn't really think of the negative payout?
No, actually in the playoffs here we have seen him more just lean toward farming his own jungle and playing more passive. So I feel like he's pushing himself out there, but he's pushing it too much. Like he's taking too many risks, and then he gets punished, and then right after this clip, we also see like Broxah moving straight to the mid lane and kills off Power Evo, and then Fnatic is kind of set up for the early game, right? So, yeah, he takes too many risks, and he needs to slow down a bit.
Needs to slow down, and he gets a chance from his team, and actually him as well involved in that, to reset and kind of go for it again. We see a fight in the bottom lane. Of course, in the bottom lane, if you're playing against Fnatic, where Misfits actually get a huge advantage off this play.
So the really cool thing about this play is Kakao, he's going to get spotted on top side, and this, for Fnatic, is enough information to say, hey, look, we can actually make a play bot side, but Kakao instantly goes back, and now he's instantly making his way to the bottom half of the map.
Yeah, and Fnatic kind of gets baited by this. Like they're like, we can just take the tower, and then Misfits fight them. And what I want to point out here is that Broxa still didn't finish any of his items, like the Redemption, like the Locket. And then because of this, Misfits actually stronger in the fight and can win the fight. And it kind of shows like how much vision really matters. Like if you show on the top side and in this case instantly base and bait the enemy team to make a play, and you counteract this, it really, you can see the value of this. So
yeah.
Great bait by Kakao.
Great bait, and it gives a triple kill over to Hansama, which is what you want to see, the AD carry back in the game. But right after, Fnatic just get the same thing, but then on Caps, LeBlanc also nets a triple kill, or actually a delayed triple kill, off this play.
I think that one of the early plays that we saw where that triple kill did come in from Caps was where things really started to go wrong for Misfits, because we saw a lot of uncoordination, and it seemed like poor communication in their ability to set up fights. And this is just one of those examples where Misfits, they just don't seem to be on the same page because Ignar is off on the side. And this is also a great demonstration of Fnatic's ability to be able to play around Reckless. How he, as a Kennen, could just dive in, and he constantly has this support from his team, allowing them to consistently win out in these 5v5 exchanges.
Yeah, and it's just playing into their hand, it seems, because, you know, the Kennen and the Gragas and the Ivern all together, it seems to be that this is just their strategy that's working. And unlike of what happened versus G2, it's still working. So why would they change it up?
I mean, it's obvious that Fnatic with this kind of draft won a team fight. And on the other hand, Misfits is drafting Camille, which should be winning against the Gragas on the side lane. And you then pair this with a Graves that kind of want to do the same as Ivern, stay around in the mid lane and look for fights. So I would like Misfits to change it up a bit. If you go for the Camille, then maybe aim for like Elise or aim for Lee Sin, so you can try to snowball the Camille and he can win on side. But instead, I feel like Misfits is kind of, they are cocktailing a bit in the draft. Like they have a split pusher, but they also want a team fight, and then Fnatic just goes full team fight, and we see the result. Like they just cross them in the fights.
I've never heard that before about a pick and ban.
A cocktail?
Yeah, a cocktail about pick and bans. Well, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Well, let's identify then. Obviously, the draft has to change. The bans and the picks have to change up. If we look at individual performances, I want to highlight Soaz, Broxa, and Reckless. And actually, then you can just name the other two as well. Jess has had a great performance. Caps has had a good series so far. And it seems to me that the recipe isn't really changing from Fnatic. Yeah, they're adapting a little bit, but those players are all showing up.
Yeah, I just want to highlight, like, Broxa has been part of every kill so far in this series. He has been a beast in the game. He looks like a beast. He's Danish. What more do you want? Like, so he's really doing great. And for a guy that is new to the scene, playing this well on his first event, like, huge props to him.
And the fact that he's been able to demonstrate that, hey guys, look, I don't just play Lee Sin, I don't just play Elise, I can play these team fights, I can play this scaling style. Now if you ban out that Ivern, you're basically asking Broxa to go, okay, you want me to play properly now? You want me to play my good champions? Like, this guy is a machine, and I'm excited to see what he can bring out in Game 3.
Right, then let's see, from the side of the Misfits, is there any player that we said, well, he's been doing well, they should try and build more on it, or is it more a macro thing as a whole? I mean, Hansama got a triple kill here in the bottom lane. How would they then have snowballed that? Can they put all the eggs in that basket? Where does it go for them?
I think I started out the segment by saying, like, Alfari is a strong point. You can play around him. He usually likes to play carry champions. You can pick, like, the champs like Elise or Lee Sin and play around him, but instead they're kind of falling into the Fnatic trap of just playing on the bottom side, and it doesn't really work out for them. So I want to see how they adapt. I want to see a carry for Alfari. I want to see a cow.
Camille?
Could be, and then play around it.
Vice versa, the alternatives that Misfits could go for is just drafting full team fight. Like, we did see them up against, in the series versus Splice, a lot of their team fighting was actually very strong when they were able to have a draft that accommodated to that. So maybe you shift up for something like a Victor or an Azir in the middle lane. You draft an AD carry like the Varus or the Ashe. Or, I mean, the Varus is consistently banned out, but you build more towards having a full round team fight, and you try and beat Fnatic at their own game.
A point as well could be to just pick away the Kennen. Let Alfari play the Kennen, and then then Reckless is forced onto something else, and just switch it up a bit. You need to try something new when you're down 0-2.
And talk to me about just like the mental aspect. We see Fnatic here huddling. Well, they're not overjoyous, but they seem focused. And then Misfits obviously also focused. They have come back from a 0-2 deficit versus you guys in a very important match as well.
I feel like we bring this up all the time.
Well, it is topical here, Trashy, because they're down 0-2. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it on purpose, just a little.
I am doing it on purpose.
But for the Misfits, like when you're at this point, you've played the entire split, you've done well, you've hit a lot of your goals already, and yes, you want to make this goal, but is it maybe creeping in there that, oh, you know, maybe we can't do it, maybe this is the end of the line? How do they address this?
I don't think you have to have that kind of a perspective. I think that Misfits have demonstrated bright points in their play style, and I think that if I was a Misfits player right now, my whole goal would be to demonstrate, like, let's show the world what we can do. Let's stop trying to fall into the trap, and let's just go back to what we're comfortable on and demonstrate to this fantastic crowd here that we can still play very well and that we are still worthy of being a top 3 contender in Europe.
Well, definitely so. Well, in any case, Misfits, they are in a very tough spot and they need a win in Game 3 to stay alive. We'll see if they can get it when we return.
Caller's going to connect. Caps is just going to walk forward. The chains, they're going to bring it home. Power Vivo wants to get something back, but the Ignite burns, or the exhaust rather, takes him down.
I want the flash. I can hold you. Just stop. Go. No flash.
In goes Caps, in goes Daisy, down goes Hansama, and Fnatic are going to find the turnaround because Caps, he's hungry for a bit more. Gonna get the double, doesn't even need to look at him. He's not having it, but another hook from Jesus! He goes over the wall. Reckless is popping off. He's going for more. Keeps dishing out the damage and power of Evil. Is all alone. Fnatic are more than happy to reap the benefits, more than happy to take the kills, and more than happy to take the Game 2 here against Misfits.